to know Dr. Abiodun for years, and I can assure you that he was one of the personalities who impressed me most throughout the past decades. I met Adi in the early 1990s when I was a young delegate to UN COPUOS and responsible for my country's engagement in the UN Space Applications Program. This program was shaped by Adi in a way that was truly formidable. During the many years of his lead, it was tremendously extended and it dramatically increased the direct benefit for so many developing countries, many of them now space actors with their own satellites and a broad utilization of space applications. Further to this strong impact, Adi has been a fantastic diplomat, be it in his role as chair of UN COPUOS, be it as founder and initiator of joint and Pan-African space policies and activities. I owed him much during my term as chair of the UN COPUOS Legal Subcommittee and as the president of the International Institute of Space Law, IISL, where he provided me with valuable advice and support liaising and working with African institutions and personalities. I am proud of the long-lasting friendship with Dr. Abiodun, an outstanding leader for the African continent and globally. Congratulations again to the African Space Leadership Institute to name the lecture in his honor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. God bless you.
Tim, you are muted.
Yeah, sorry about that. Welcome to the first public lecture in honor of, organized by the African Space Leadership Institute. We are organizing this lecture in honor of Dr. Adigun Abiodun for his tremendous contribution to space development.
Recording in progress.
But in developing countries around the world. ASLI is Africa's first space-focused think tank. The mission of the think tank is to develop Africa's capabilities and capacity in space policy, strategy, law, governance, and leadership. And actually, you can trace the establishment of ASLI as far back as the conceptualization of the African Space Program. And many of the colleagues that drafted or designed the African Space Program are very much here present with us. As you may also be aware, Dr. Abiodun is one of our co-founders. Just to also mention that ASLI's main objectives are threefold, and that's to increase and deepen space knowledge in Africa, which has been Dr. Abiodun's very strong desire, even when he was at the UN. And we'll get to know a little bit more about that in the course of this program. Secondly, we want to strengthen Africa's participation in international forums. Different forums are currently going on, whether it's at the COPUOS level or at the national level. And thirdly, to support strong strategic positioning of space programs in Africa. As some of us may be aware, the African Space Program is one of the flagship programs of Agenda 2063, which is the framework for economic development for Africa. So on behalf of ASLI, I thank you all for honoring this invitation. I know it's very early hours in some parts of the world or very late in some parts. So I really appreciate your making time for this. I will now invite Dr. Abiodun's wife to formally welcome everybody, Mrs. Judith Abiodun.
Hello, everyone. I extend warm greetings and a warm welcome to everyone attending the launching of the Space Leadership Institute's lecture series in the name of Adigun Abiodun, my dear husband. And I thank you all for coming and ask that God bless these proceedings. Welcome.
Okay, thank you very much, Ma. One of our co-founders, Dr. Val Munsami, is here. Dr. Val Munsami, well, I don't know whether it needs any introduction, but presently is the Deputy CEO of the Saudi Space Commission. I hope Africa has not lost him to Saudi Arabia. But before that, he was the CEO of the South African National Space Agency. He was the chair of the African Union Space Working Group. And actually, that was my first time of meeting him personally. And he has been a strong mentor to me since then. He's also one of the co-founders of ASLI. So I'll give him the floor to give some opening remarks.
Thanks.
I'm trying to see how to.
There's a few microphones on. Okay. No, thanks, Ade. Let me carry on. First of all, Ade, just want to say you've been a father figure to most of us, including myself. I saw you as a mentor. I think our first encounter was in South Africa when we hosted the African Leadership Conference. And I know you, the godfather of the African Leadership Conference. You essentially established that conference itself. And I think since then, we've been together up until this very day. And I'm really glad to say that I've leaned on you on many occasions in terms of sharing my own experience and actually borrowing quite a lot from your own as well. Actually read your book and quite resonated with the thoughts that you had in terms of, rationalizing how to set up a space program, what the pitfalls are, what not to do, and what to do. And so we've been in contact since then, and I think we've had many experiences together, including, I think, pioneering the work for the African continent in terms of the African space policy, African space strategy. And I know we met right across Africa. We've been to Egypt, we've been to Kenya, South Africa quite a few times. And I think in all of those meetings, when we were conceptualizing the African space program, there was always a senior voice that resonated in the room in terms of experience and leadership. And so that always motivated us and calmed us down in a way when things got heated and debated to an extent that, we had to focus in terms of where we needed to go. And I think right now, as co-founders of the African Space Leadership Institute, and I think we share the same passion for Africa. And you've always been there on the sides. And I think your experience even in the UN has certainly served us very well as an expert from the UN. And not to forget your role in the pioneering aspects in Nigeria as well, in terms of setting up the Nigerian space program in the very early days. And so I'm really, thankful to be associated with Dr. Ade Abiodun since 2009, and I think we have a very strong bond. And so I'm hoping, Ade, your knowledge and expertise will definitely rub off into the next generation, which we've started off. So I look forward to engaging further. Thanks, Ade. And
Thank you very much.
For your
Thank you.
contribution.
Yeah. Thank you.
I've been trying to mute everyone, but I don't see the functions. If we can mute ourselves, that'll be fine. We should go watch a documentary on Dr. Abiodun. Faith, you can go on to play the documentary, please. Hello, Faith. Sorry, we are having some. Let me use.
Gbé volume jáde bọ̀ kò tí ì gbé kankan jáde. Kò ṣú mi pé mo wà ń bẹ̀ náà. Ó record.
Tim, are you going to begin again? Because we didn't hear the beginning.
Ẹ̀yà dọ̀tọ̀ Abiodun náà.
We can't hear anything. I mean, it's like breaking up. So maybe we can start again.
Yeah, start from the beginning, right?
Okay, ó ti wà ń bẹ̀, wọ́n ti ṣó pé mo wà ń bẹ̀ o. Mo sàn jọba ń gbé okay. Okay. So it's from them. You mute it now. Ọkùn gbé volume jáde. Mo ti ṣí yìí.
I think we are not hearing any sound.
Gbé sí the maximum.
Hello, Faith, we can't hear the sound. Can you stop it, please?
Aha. Ó dà pé mi nìkan kọ́.
Sorry, please, can we mute ourselves?
Sorry,
Kí ló rí?
it's Olasanjo Ekundayo needs to mute themselves.
Yeah. Àwọn church, I don't know the best.
Okay, please, can you unmute Faith so that she can play the documentary? Can you unmute Faith so that she can play the documentary?
Okay, can I play now?
Yeah, please go ahead. Thank you.
All right.
Abiodun safely landed on planet Earth via Nigeria at his family's farming village of Araromi Abiodun. He was educated in Nigeria, the USA, and Canada. He obtained his PhD in 1971 in civil engineering from the University of Washington, Seattle, USA, and immediately thereafter, he joined the academic staff of the University of Ife, Uni-Ife, Ile-Ife, Nigeria, now called the Obafemi Awolowo University. After being away from Nigeria for almost 9 years of education and acculturation in America, operating in his old but now new Nigerian environment with a commitment to be a fruitful academician became a challenge. Although he was appointed as a lecturer in civil engineering, he soon found out on his arrival at Ife that he would be placed in the Department of Agricultural Engineering in Uni-Ife's Faculty of Technology. He carried out his teaching and research assignments, including publication of papers in scholarly journals, and attended a number of national and international conferences that were germane to his profession. He took his students to see sites of professional relevance to their education, including a picturesque view of an anthill on their way to the Ahmadu Bello University in Zaria. He joined his 2 other academic colleagues to provide a number of professional services to the university, particularly the establishment of the Department of Civil Engineering and its hydraulics laboratory and the servicing of its water supply system. That was also the time that the United States launched its first Earth observation satellite, Landsat-1, in July 1972. At that time, a large part of Africa, including Nigeria, was not covered by the existing Landsat ground receiving stations. Subsequently, on behalf of Nigeria, the incumbent Vice Chancellor of UNIFE, Professor Hezekiah Oluwasomi, invited Ade and 8 other members of the academic staff of UNIFE with education, training, and experience in those areas of national development that could benefit from the data to be acquired by Landsat 2 to contribute to a proposal that Nigeria would later submit to the US National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA. This was Ade's first direct involvement in a space technology activity. The proposal requested NASA to acquire Earth observation data of Nigeria for use in its national development agenda. Shortly thereafter, in early 1973, the United Nations Outer Space Affairs Division issued a global call for qualified candidates to apply for participation in an international course it was organizing in collaboration with CNES in France on remote sensing. All those associated with the drafting of the Nigerian proposal to NASA received a copy of this United Nations announcement. Ade's application was successful, and he received an invitation to participate in the first United Nations Summer School on Remote Sensing training course that was held in Tarbes, France, from August 21 to September 21, 1973. He was also one of the 13 participants that the United Nations sponsored to this course. The UN course was very stimulating and encouraging, and it offered the participants the opportunity to meet many people from different parts of the world. At the end of the course, Ade realized that he needed more knowledge in the field of remote sensing and the broad field of space science and technology if he were to be effective in applying it to address the several lingering development issues in Nigeria. Of particular interest were such areas as water resources, agricultural and food production, environmental degradation, including deforestation and soil erosion, telecommunications, tele-education, and telehealth. Ade subsequently went ahead and applied for and was awarded a National Research Council of Canada postdoctoral research fellowship that was tenable at the Canada Centre for Remote Sensing, CCRS, in Ottawa, Canada, from December 1974 to February 1976. Ade's experience was a very rich and supportive one. On arrival at the CCRS, the management of the organization invited him for a discussion on his research agenda, associated costs, and the facilities that would be made available to him. He was given opportunities to participate in the other ongoing CCRS, particularly a space-based research program on the southern Indian Lake near Winnipeg. He was also offered necessary support for his attendance at professional conferences of interest to him. From Canada, Ade's career took him back to Nigeria. Just before he left Ottawa in February 1976, at the end of his CCRS fellowship program, he personally delivered a copy of a document he had prepared on remote sensing technology in the development of Nigeria to the Nigerian High Commissioner in Ottawa for onward transition to the Nigerian government in Lagos. On his return to Nigeria, he sought opportunities to advance the knowledge and use of remote sensing technology at his university and in other Nigerian academic institutions and appropriate government establishments. These include the National Council for Science and Technology, Science Association of Nigeria, Lake Kenji Research Institute, Basita Sugar Estate, Ogun State Water Corporation, as well as the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Africa in Addis Ababa. He sought to impress on them all the invaluable contributions of remote sensing to national development. Shortly after his return to Ife from Canada, he received in March 1976 an invitation from the federal government of Nigeria to serve as an advisor to the Nigerian delegation to the 13th session of the United Nations Scientific and Technical Subcommittee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space in Geneva, Switzerland. His contributions at that meeting led to a joint luncheon invitation from both the chief of OSAD, Professor Lubos Perek, and the United Nations expert on space applications, Mr. H.G.S. Murthy. The discussion that afternoon and subsequent communications between OSAD and the Nigerian government resulted in Ade's 2-year secondment to the Space Applications section of OSAD as a remote sensing specialist beginning on July 24, 1977. On his arrival at the United Nations headquarters in New York, Ade found out that he was one of just 4 officers and 2 administrative assistants that constituted the staff of the Space Applications section of OSAD, with the United Nations expert on space applications as the head of the section. Almost 7 months later, he attended his first meeting of corps as a United Nations staff. At that time, the main function of the section was to carry out the mandate granted to it by the United Nations General Assembly on the recommendations of the United Nations Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space. Ade's first major activity at the United Nations was to plan, develop, and execute the 3rd United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization International Training Course on remote sensing applications in agriculture, with emphasis on forestry. The course was held from the 15th of May to the 2nd of June 1978.
On this occasion, we celebrate Dr. Adigun Abiodun. I first met Dr. Abiodun when I was privileged to serve in the United Nations in Vienna. And I found him to be passionate in educating member states on the benefits of peaceful uses of outer space. On a personal level, we developed a very close working relationship. And even whenever he calls my house, incidentally, my daughter will pick the phone and say, Dr. Abiodun. So they developed a very close grandfather-granddaughter relationship. As we celebrate Dr. Abiodun, my wife, Rose, and I wish Dr. Abiodun and his amiable wife, Auntie Judith, a remarkable location and best wishes.
The United Nations General Assembly, at its 33rd session, decided that a 2nd United Nations Conference on the Exploration and Peaceful Uses of Outer Space, Unispace 82, should be convened. Thereafter, corps agreed that Unispace 82 would be held from August 9th to 21st, 1982, with Austria as the host country, just as it did in 1968 for Unispace 68, and that OSAD will similarly serve as the premier support secretariat of the conference. In preparation for the upcoming 1982 conference, the then chief of the Space Applications section called Ade for a discussion on what his views were on the future directions of UNSAP. Ade provided him with an internal memorandum on suggestions on future directions of the UN Space Applications Program. But by mid-1981, the incumbent chief of the Space Applications section resigned his post. In order to keep the office agenda of the UNSAP on track, in June 1981, Ade Abiodun was appointed as the officer in charge of the Space Applications section. Subsequently, On November 3rd, 1981, Adigun Abiodun was appointed as the United Nations expert on space applications and the chief of the Space Applications Section. Ade and his staff then refined the proposal he had proposed in late 1980 as the future direction of the program and submitted same to Copwas for consideration during its Unispace 82 preparations. The Unispace 82 conference was held as planned. Thereafter, the UN General Assembly. In order to effectively translate the elements of the expanded mandates of the program into operational activities, the Space Applications section, under Ade's supervision, developed 3 major initiatives which were subsequently approved by Copwas and endorsed by the General Assembly. These were: 1. The establishment of regional centers for space science and technology education in the developing countries. Today, these centers are operating in India from 1995, Nigeria from 1998, Morocco from 1998, Jordan from 2012, Brazil and Mexico, India, and Latin America. 2. The United Nations initiative to develop a satellite-based cooperative information network called COPINE received strong support from the European Space Agency and 6 West European countries. But with no support from the African beneficiaries, the program died a natural death. 3. The organization of a course series that was funded by the government of Sweden and hosted by Stockholm University from 1990 through 1998, except for 1991. Each course session lasted 6 weeks and focused on remote sensing education for university educators. While at the United Nations, Ade Abiodun also served in a variety of other capacities, including coordinator of the participation of the United Nations in the International Space Year, which happened in 1992. On the 30th of September 1999, Ade retired from the services of the United Nations. In early year 2000, Ade accepted to serve Nigeria in the administration of President Olusegun Obasanjo as his senior special assistant on space science and technology. He saw his role as helping the nation to embark on a long-term space program that would ensure that space played a significant and pivotal role in Nigeria's development agenda. By the time Ade assumed office in Abuja, Nigeria had already started a Nigerian satellite project with a singular focus of purchasing Nigeria's Sat-1 Earth observation satellite. Ade did not believe this to be a viable approach for the space program in Nigeria or for any developing country. He presented the same to the president and others with all reasonable arguments against going forward with the satellite project, but it appeared that all the hands on the deck were in favor of the Nigeria Sat-1 ever before he even joined the administration. Ade Abiodun believed he had only one choice left. He formally requested the then President of Nigeria, His Excellency Olusegun Obasanjo, in writing to be excused from being associated with the Nigeria Sat-1 project. Ade, as the Senior Special Assistant on Space Science and Technology, invited the support of 24 Nigerians that were knowledgeable in the different fields of space science and technology. The experts that Ade Abiodun brought in produced a document titled Nigeria's Space Program, a blueprint for scientific and technological development. The document was presented to President Obasanjo. In January 2000, the incumbent Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Kofi Annan, appointed Abiodun as a member of the College of Commissioners of the United Nations Monitoring, Verification, and Inspection Commission on Iraq, UNMOVIC. UNMOVIC was established to provide the United Nations authoritative information needed to disarm Iraq of its weapons of mass destruction and to operate a system of ongoing monitoring and verification to check Iraq's compliance with its obligations not to reacquire the same weapons prohibited to it by the Security Council. UNMOVIC never found any operative weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and its inspectors were withdrawn in March 2003. UNMOVIC was decommissioned in 2007. While at the United Nations, Abiodun also served in a variety of other capacities, including the following. 1. Secretary to Committee 2 of Unispace 82 in 1982. 2. Coordinator of the participation of the United Nations in the International Space Year, 1992. 3. Organizer globally, from May 1998 through January 1999, of 4 Unispace 3 regional preparatory conferences that were mandated by the General Assembly. 4. Coordinator from June 1998 to July 1999 of 13 Unispace 3 background papers. 5. Secretary to the Ad Hoc Drafting Group of Unispace 3 Preparatory Committee, and he was also the Secretary to Committee 2 of Unispace 3 in July 1999.
Hello, my name is Kayo Wischrogel. I'm with the European Space Agency ESA, and I'm the president of the International Institute of Space Law. Please receive my congratulations for naming this lecture in honor of Dr. Adigun Abiodun, who has been a leader for African space endeavors for so many decades. I am privileged to know Dr. Abiodun for almost 30 years, and I can assure you that he was one of the personalities who impressed me most throughout the past decades. I met Adi in the early 1990s when I was a young delegate to UN COPUOS and responsible for my country's engagement in the UN Space Applications Program. This program was shaped by Adi in a way that was truly formidable. During the many years of his lead, it was tremendously extended and it dramatically increased the direct benefit for so many developing countries, many of them now space actors with their own satellites and a broad utilization of space applications. Further to this strong impact, Adi has been a fantastic diplomat, be it in his role as chair of UN COPUOS, be it as founder and initiator of joint and Pan-African space policies and activities. I owed him much during my term as chair of the UN COPUOS Legal Subcommittee and as the president of the International Institute of Space Law, IISL, where he provided me with valuable advice and support, liaising and working with African institutions and personalities. I am proud of the long-lasting friendship with Dr. Abiodun, an outstanding leader for the African continent and globally. Congratulations again to the African Space Leadership Institute to name the lecture in his honor. Thank you.
Dear Abijun, dear participants, this is a message from Rome on the occasion of the public lecture in honor of Dr. Adigun Abiodun, delivered by Maslan Othman, to whom I also convey my most sincere regards. I have greatly appreciated the invitation of the African Space Leadership Institute to record a tribute. My relationship with Abidun dates back in time because we were both acting within the United Nations organs dealing with space governance. However, our personal and professional relationship touched its apex when he was elected chairman of the UN Committee on the peaceful use of outer space in June 2004 and carried out this function during the biennium 2004-2006. Thanks to his competence and strong leadership, he gave a renewed input to the committee's work. I remember his first statement as chairman when he stressed on the urgent need to move forward the sustainability of outer space activities and identify new areas for the application of space technologies for sustainable development globally. Needless to say that his vision has been always directed towards emerging space countries and in particular those of the African region. But I must also underline how open-minded and looking forward was his approach to outer space, including my sector, space law. In fact, I deeply appreciated his leadership, having had the chance to be elected myself chairman of the COPOS Legal Subcommittee for the same biennium 2004-2006. We worked in strict cooperation and pursued common intents. Furthermore, he engaged in the organization of the UN Nigeria workshop on space law on the topic of meeting international responsibilities and addressing domestic needs, held in Abuja in November 2005, which was a great success. I appreciated then the Adigun skills in ensuring a friendly and warm environment for all participants in his country during the official meetings and the most joyful occasions of relax. It is not easy to encapsulate in a recorded message all what I wanted to say, but in a nutshell, I would say, dear Abiodun, be sure of my unfailing feeling of friendship and esteem. Congratulations. Ciao.
Abiodun worked with like-minded professionals and colleagues and interested partners around the world to establish a number of space-related organizations and institutions, as well as contribute to their activities. These include 1. In 1986, and at the invitation of the Executive Director of ECA and the Center's Director, Abiodun led the team of experts that developed the postgraduate program on remote sensing and geographical information systems for the ECA Regional Center for Aerospace Surveys, RECTAS, in Ile-Ife, Nigeria. 2. He served as member of COSPA's panel on space research in developing countries from 1982 to 1999, and ISPRS Working Group on Extraterrestrial Mapping of the ISPRS from 1988 to 1999, and C. COS ISPRS International Policy Study Panel. 3. At the invitation of the Executive Secretary of the ECA in Addis Ababa, he led from July 25 to July 31, 1990, a 3-man fact-finding mission that reorganized the administrative structure of the Regional Center for Services in Surveying, Mapping, and Remote Sensing, RCSSMRS, in Nairobi, Kenya. 4. He contributed to the development of the 1990 summer projects, that is, the international programs for Earth observation of the International Space University Summer Program, Strasbourg, France. 5. He initiated, in collaboration with other like-minded African professionals, the establishment of the African Association of Remote Sensing of the Environment, AARSE, in Colorado Springs, Colorado, in 1992. 6. He contributed to the 1992 to 1994 preparatory work that led to the establishment of the Asia Pacific Satellite Communications Council, APSCC, in Seoul, Korea, in October 1994. 7. He presented an initiative at the 1996 United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development held in Pretoria, South Africa, that subsequently led to the establishment of the African Space Leadership Conference, ASLC. ASLC was eventually established and inaugurated in Abuja, Nigeria in June 2005. 8. He collaborated through UNOSA with the establishment of the Space Generation Advisory Council in 1999 and therefore served as one of its board members. 9. He has been a long-term member of the Space Week International Association and served as chairman of its board of directors October 2001 to October 2004. 10. He served as one of the 20 global panelists that explored in February 2006 space and humans in the next 1,000 years for the Foundation of the Future, Bellevue, State of Washington. 11. He served as a member of the Association of Space Explorers panel on the mitigation of asteroids impacts from 2007 to 2008. 12. He invited participants at Space Vista workshop held in Strasbourg, France in January 2014 and sponsored by US Air Force and International Space University. 13. He served as a member of the African Union Space Working Group. 14. He founded the African Space Foundation and he is a co-founder of the African Space Leadership Institute.
It is my pleasure to tell you the story of my meeting with Adigun Abiodun. That is also, in a sense, the story or part of the story of Africa going to space. I first met with Professor Ade, as I like to call him, at the UMESTAT conference in Addis Ababa in October 2012. But with the current CEO of SANSA, Mr. Mbulani Mado. Professor Ade was straightforward, and he explained to me, the plant biologist that I am, how space was important to Africa and how I can really use my seat as the head of science and technology at the African Union Commission to advance this African space initiative. I listened to him very carefully, and once I got back to my office, I started discussing with my team on how we can move the space initiative forward. This led to prioritization and coordination within the African Union Commission for the implementation of the GMES and Africa program, and also through AMCOS 2012 in Congo-Brazzaville, the Ministers of Science and Technology empowered the African Union Commission to set up the Space Working Group led by Professor Val Musami. The outcome of the work, it has members of the African Space Community with the key element of the African Space Program, meaning the African Space Policy and Strategy, and the African Space Agency are on the ground by the time I retired from the African Union Commission in early 2022. It is to tell you how Professor Ade contributed in accelerating the journey of Africa to space, which the able colleagues at the African Union Commission, notably Dr. Tijani Ouattara, are really working hard to champion. I'm therefore very grateful to Professor Ade for his mentorship and his persistent push to achieve the goals set for the African Space Program as embodied in these foundations document. In this meeting and in all subsequent encounters with Professor Ade, he always made me feel at home. He made me feel more important and more empowered, which are usually not part of my character. I cannot thank Professor Ade enough for his contribution in the conception of the African Space Program and his mentorship. This is part of his legacy, and I will always remember it. I wish you well, Professor Ade, and I want to thank you all for listening.
My name is Bruce Forster. I was a professor of satellite remote sensing at the University of New South Wales in Sydney and the Australian delegate to the Asian Association on Remote Sensing. My wife, Jan, and I have known Dr. Abiodun for many years, both personally and professionally, and we're delighted that he is being honoured by the African Space Institute for his work throughout the world over many, many years. Adi has made a tremendous contribution to satellite remote sensing, Earth observation, and the peaceful use of outer space, firstly through his foundation of the African Space Foundation, and over many, many years, his work with the United Nations. Adi has always seemed to be very busy, never stopping, always on the go. But there is another side. When my wife and I hosted him in Sydney, we decided to take him to the famous Sydney Opera House to see a grand opera. But after days of flying, jet lag finally caught up with him and he fell asleep. So we let him sleep quietly and peacefully through the remaining performance and woke him at the end and got him home back to his hotel safe and sound. Dr. Abiodun is a great African, world leader, but more importantly, a great human being who is charming, intelligent, always full of fun, and we both admire him very much and feel honored to be his friend. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you.
Throughout his career and immediately thereafter, Ade continued to research, lecture, and publish in his chosen field of interest, and much more. Most of these, including joint papers, are available online via LinkedIn, ResearchGate, and academia.edu.
Many thanks to Dr.
Thank you.
Thanks to Dr. Olawale Akinwale, who developed this documentary within a very short time. So it may not be as perfect as you would expect, but sincere appreciation to him. He's a senior lecturer at the Obafemi Awolowo University. And again, you may have noted that at some point the video was dragging. That's primarily because of the network issues. Maybe if Copine had worked out very well, maybe we'll have internet challenges in African countries. All right, so we come to the major highlight of the program, which is the lecture itself. And we have Professor Maxlan Hoffman, who is going to be delivering the lecture. But I'll just give a brief introduction of Professor Hoffman, who is also not a new person within the space community. Professor Hoffman obtained a PhD in astrophysics from the University of Otago in New Zealand and became a lecturer at the University Kebangsaan, Malaysia. Sorry if I don't pronounce that very well. That was in 1981. She was seconded to the Prime Minister's Department in 1990 to set up and head the Planetarium Division, which subsequently became the Space Science Studies Division in 1993. Appointed by University Kebangsaan, Malaysia, as Professor of Astrophysics in 1994, she was also appointed Director of UNUSA, that's the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs in Vienna, Austria in 1999. She returned to Malaysia to become the founding Director General of the National Space Agency, which is called ANCANSA, and that started in July 2002. In this capacity, she established the National Observatory in Langkawi and the National Space Center in Selangor. She headed the National ANCANSA program, which was the Malaysian Astronaut Program, which saw the launch of the first Malaysian to the International Space Station, ISS, in 2007. She was responsible for the launch of Malaysia remote sensing satellites Tongsat and RazakSat. In terms of her professional and educational development, she has attended the Advanced Management Program at Harvard Business School in 2005. And then she resumed back at UNUSA as director in 2007. That shows, the impact she made then and why she was called back. That was upon her retirement from the Malaysian Civil Service. In addition to being director of UNUSA, she was also appointed as the Deputy Director General of the UN office in Vienna in June 2009. and then retired from the UN in December 2013, but she was not allowed to rest. She was given another appointment as Project Director of Mega Science 3.0 at the Academy of Sciences, Malaysia, from 2014 to 2016. She then became Professor Emeritus at UKM in 2015 and was a Fulbright Scholar at the Space Policy Institute at GWU, that's the George Washington University, from 2015 to 2016. Then she was elected Senior Fellow at ASM in 2016, was Director of the International Science Council Regional Office in Asia and the Pacific region from 2017 to 2021, and many other things which I want to go into now, but we are very happy and privileged to have Professor Maxland deliver the first public lecture by ASLI. Professor Maxland, you have the floor, please. Faith,
Thank you.
The slides also.
Yes, you will help me share the slides. Thank you. I think, yeah, everybody can hear me. So esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, I feel I'm among friends. So I'm not going to be too formal. And I welcome you all to just interrupt and ask me a question if it was a burning one. So I first met Ade more than 30 years ago. Just counting this morning, I'm thinking, wow, more than 30 years ago. It was in Indonesia in 1993 or thereabouts. So shortly after that, I was made the head of delegation, the head of the Malaysian delegation to the United Nations Committee on Peaceful Uses of Outer Space. So I got to know Ade better, and I became more familiar with the work of the UN and of the office. Now, as fate would have it, in 1999, I was considered as one of the candidates for the director of USA. Now, I needn't tell you that I had big reservations about whether I was suitable for the position. But I know Ade never doubted that I could do the job. So thank you, Ade, for bringing me into the fold of the UN, first informally as the head of the delegation, and then I went in formally there. And as it turned out, Ade, my 10-year stint at the UN was the most rewarding part of my career. And I had a very, very satisfying career in Malaysia. But somehow when I think about what I could achieve and the sort of support that I had to, my stint at the UN was incomparable. So again, I'm deeply grateful to Ade and extremely honored at him and everybody to be invited to give this Adigun Ade Abiodun public lecture. I was happy to recall, what Ade had done for all of us, because now the one most important thing that both Ade and I were passionate about was to bring the developing countries into the realm of countries involved in space. So about 30 years ago, still there was an elite group of countries who called themselves spacefaring nations. And of course, Ade and I have seen so much change. Today, almost every country that sets its mind or sets its sights on launching an object into space can actually do so. But there is still this lingering question: why should we go into space? So can you change the slide, please, Etin? Okay, so why should we go into space? I mean, all heads of space agencies, whether he's a space agency of NASA or me, when I was head of space agency, almost every day we would have to answer this question: why should we go to space? after all, don't we have problems with food security, water security, energy security, climate change, you name it. And this surely must be addressed as a priority. But really, it is these very problems that actually tell us that we need to go to space. So I'm going to illustrate this. I think I'm talking to the converted, so I'm not going to talk very long about this. So my premise is that humanity should go to space. And so to illustrate this, maybe we'll talk about what about a day without space? Now, this is one of the famous things that the space fraternity does, is to challenge the public to think about what is a day without space. And then, of course, we tell the public that on the day when they wake up that we have removed all space assets, is that everyday technologies that we take for granted will go dark. No internet, no smartphones, no weather forecast that you can get on your handphone, horrendous flight delays. Already there are flight delays, even with satellites up there. No satellite imagery, no reliable global communications. You can't make that transfer internationally to your mom, for instance. No precision guided anything, not for farming, not for aviation, nothing. So I think this sometimes shocks the public, because they don't see how close our everyday life is intertwined, closely intertwined with space. And in fact, our economic, as you know, and national security issues have become increasingly intertwined. And they are continuously and increasingly reliant on space services. But as I say, I'm talking to the converted, so I don't want to talk about this too much, because I have something else that I want to talk about. So, so then, given the crucial importance of space, should developing countries stay on the margins and watch the rest of the world benefit from what space services have to offer? Okay, so I would say that the answer to should we go to space is yes. Now, can we go to space? Everybody thinks going to space is actually quite it's a big obstacle. There's so many obstacles to go to space. But the good news is that we have entered a new era, and we call it the new space era. Can you change the slide, please, Tim? So we now have what we call a new space era. So what is this new space era? So change the slides again. So what is new space? The people here in this group that are familiar with industry will know this very well. The new space is about the emergence of the private sector. So this last decades have seen the dominance of the billionaire boys like Elon Musk, Richard Branson, Jeff Bezos, to name a few. And they have gone into all reaches of space. Now, I remember last year, I think March, I was at the Dubai Expo, and I was called, I was invited to be on the final panel that was going to talk about the future of humanity in space. We were not told what the questions would be. So the first question that was posed to me by this person from the BBC, he said to me, why should we allow the billionaire boys to call the shots in space? And I thought, how am I going to answer this? And so I said that we can't stop them from going to space, just like we cannot stop them from buying their most expensive yacht or getting a new trophy wife. We cannot stop them. But the good news is, I said, is that we have in space, the regime that looks after space is actually vested in the United Nations. And I made a point that actually developing countries, despite the fact that we have, some of us have never gone to space, we can still influence how space is being governed through the United Nations. And I called on all developing countries, and I still call until today, for us to be involved in space. Because there are so many reasons, and I'm just giving you some of them. So this private space industry, I'm trying to list there. We've got the private launch companies, you know them all, I think, and we've got small satellite constellations. From what I saw yesterday, Elon Musk's Starlink makes up half of all the satellites up there in space right now. It's quite frightening, actually. And then there's also suborbital tourism. Jeff Bezos and Richard Branson in those realms. In-orbit services, a lot of people don't realize this, but we have the capability today to service satellites in space. And of course, my favorite of all, the interplanetary travel. And there are so many issues here. There are the ethics, the moral issues. But I still think that just because we have problems, it does not mean that we shouldn't do it. What we need to do is take the bull by the horns and address those issues. Of course, today they're saying that we already have trillionaires on Earth, but if you want to be a quadrillionaire, you need to be talking about space resource exploitation. Or you would have seen slides and a lot of articles on the amount of, precious minerals going to be in space, and that is the way to it. It is the space, the gold rush is going to be in space. And I always tell the public that there are already companies, entrepreneurs who are already thinking about going to space to mine on asteroids, to mine on the moon. But all this, the different things that the private sector is coming up with has made innovation part of the equation. And so with all this innovation going on, it has lowered the barrier of entry to space. And that's why I'm saying that any country with its sights on sending a satellite into space can actually do so now. There are entrepreneurs, even in Malaysia, we're talking about entrepreneurs, and we don't even have a space program. So there are entrepreneurs in India, in China, in, of course, Europe, in the US, it's, taken for granted. So all of this augurs well for the space sector. As I said, there are all kinds of economic numbers. You go to ChatGPT, you get all these numbers, and I thought, I'm not going to go and look for those numbers. You can look for them yourselves. But the important thing to remember is, of course, there are key success factors if we do want to go to space. And can you change the slides, please? Now, at the national level, at the country level, political leadership is so important. And I say this because the only reason Malaysia had a space program was because of political vision, somebody who could see the role of space in not only 5 years, but in 50 years. And you need somebody with a political vision like that. But that alone is not enough. We need consistent and sustained commitment, especially in human capital development. If we're talking about Africa, the less developed parts of Asia, of course, we have to leave out Japan, Korea, and China. But we must focus on human capital development. Again, I'm not going to tell you in what fields, because ChatGPT will tell you all of that. But as important is building that STI ecosystem, Why? Because you need that research milieu that will help the country innovate. And it's that research milieu that will also provide some of the new technologies for industry. So it is extremely important to build an STI ecosystem that is wholesome, that will allow the country to develop its science and technology. So can you change slides now, please? But I want to take, so I'm just taking my papers here. What I want to do, and I think I've been, because as I said, you're going to find ChatGPT give you all these answers, but I want this opportunity to promote something. And that is in the area of cooperation and collaboration. We're talking at intra-regional, and that's where Asli will come in. You're going to be discussing what your cooperation and collaboration efforts are. But I want to talk about inter-regional, simply because here I am with my hat on as a Malaysian, and 7 hours ahead of you in Asia. And that international cooperation is about cooperation in the tropics. Can you change slides, please? Adi, you know that since you first convened the Africa Leadership Space Conference, I have always been pushing for developing countries to go to the near equatorial orbit. So at this particular meeting, I want to advocate for collaborating space involving the tropical countries. It's not that I think the other countries are not important, but the thing is, it's about the tropics. So why are the tropics important? So if you're going to talk about developing countries, this is the situation in the tropics, Firstly, that 3 billion people live in the tropics, which is 42% of the world's population. And by 2050, 2/3 of the world's children will be living in the tropics. And you know what? Most of them in Africa. Now, on top of that, we have the fact that 80% of the world's languages are spoken in the tropics. I love this fact. I hadn't realized it, and my mind was blown. My God, the world's languages, 80% in the tropics, And then the tropics covers 40% of the world's agricultural area. We have 80% of the world's biodiversity. However, 85% of the world's extreme poor also live in the tropics. We are most affected by climate change. 1 billion people are infected annually by neglected tropical diseases. And therefore, we must work together to address all the things I mentioned before, all those insecurities that we have, energy insecurity, food insecurity, climate change. So we must work together. And there is really a nice solution to all of this. And that is by having inter-regional cooperation in the tropics, by having, so here I'm just reminding everybody, what do we mean by the tropics? And of the 50, I think, I might be wrong here, 54 countries in Africa, 43 of you, or 80%, are in the tropics, So there is good reason for us to want to go to the tropics. And what I'm proposing here is a constellation of satellites at the equator itself. Can we change slides? Again, I'd like to remind everybody that I have been advocating for this passionately for a little while I was in the UN, and then I came back to Malaysia and got completely distracted. But I am advocating for an alliance of the tropics to address agriculture, resource conservation and all that, and having a constellation of satellites in the tropics is going to be one of the best solutions for us. And you can see here, for those of you who know this, that we just need 25 nanosatellites that will cover the whole of the tropical region. Adi and I talked about this, and that we are asking, why should the developing countries launch its own satellite? After all, there is so much data out there, free data out there. But I'm going to tell you a story. In 1997, perhaps it's long ago, but not terribly long ago, that was the time when one of the biggest haze episodes occurred in Southeast Asia. Aeroplanes were falling from the sky. There was, horrible things like that. Our children had to wear masks to school. Schools had to close. And then I remember the Prime Minister, this visionary Prime Minister I had at that stage, called a meeting of the Malaysian National Security Council. And he had invited me. And he wanted me to brief the National Security Council, our National Security Council, on the role of satellites, how satellites can help the country solve this haze problem. And unfortunately, I had to tell him that with the satellites that we had at that time, we were either looking at the hotspots with a resolution of a few kilometers, which was no good at all for firefighting, or if we did have the right resolution, the satellites only come over Malaysia, once every few days, which again meant that it was no good for fighting fires. In fact, no good for everyday decision making. And when I said this, I realized that actually I had made I had told him that actually satellites are no good. They're not the solution for our problems. And I wanted the floor to open so I can disappear from there. But then, so I went back and I thought, oh my God, I just made a big blooper there. And that I had actually told the Prime Minister that we don't need a satellite program because it's not good enough for us. Until it occurred to me that why was it that the satellites in operation did not have that temporal resolution? It didn't come often enough for day-to-day decision making. And I realized that it's because all those satellites were going from pole to pole. And that kind of sun-synchronous orbit, actually, because the equator is fat, did not address the problems of the tropics. And I thought, by this time, I was already talking to Martin Sweeting, of SSTL, that the solution to the problem of our haze was to put our satellites at the equator. Then it occurred to me that if I put a satellite at the equator, I would serve all the countries around the equator or in the tropics. And that's why I made a big move to send our first satellite our remote sensing satellite to the near equatorial orbit. We were the first in the world to do that. Of course, we had technical problems, but I wanted to be innovative. So the question is, should we be sending our own satellites to space? We need satellites that solve our problems, our own particular problems. And in the case of the problems at the equator or in the tropics, nobody is going to care about whether or not they see what we have to see. I mean, because as you know, if you look at my diagram here, these satellites only cover the equator or the tropics. They're not going to cover the US. Why would the US bother about it? Why would Australia bother about it? Why would the whole of Europe bother about getting satellites into the orbits that are critical for us. So to me, that would have been, that still is the raison d'etre for us launching our satellites into space, Ade. And there are, if we contribute these satellites, we could contribute to getting data of the oceans in the tropics. As you know, there's not enough information of the oceans in the tropics and many other things. As I said, because the ocean, the tropics is very fat, and therefore we lack some data. So there is a clear contribution the tropical countries can make to the worldwide data that we need to solve a lot of those problems. So I'm sorry I'm taking this time, but if we're going to be thinking about what we should be doing, as developing countries, we should be thinking of collaborating, and nothing nicer, more beautiful than putting up there. It doesn't have to be 25. Nowadays we have lots of solutions for the technology solutions that you don't even require 25. And we know nano satellites don't cost a heck of a lot of money, and therefore, so there is a problem with the launching, but we can solve that problem. There's no problem here that cannot be solved, and I always think that. And so I really. But I am not pushing it here only. I'm going to be pushing it at our international conference on tropical science, at APEC, in ASEAN. I'm not going to give up yet. Sometimes I think I should, but no, I think not. Okay, so please, thank you for indulging in what I'm trying to advocate. Now, the one thing I wanted to say before I end is that, next slide, please. I wanted to say that whenever you go onto something difficult, you will notice that there will be more difficult things you have to overcome. And I like that Nelson Mandela's reference to the hills. And what motivates me, what excites me, is having climbed one mountain or one hill, I know that there are so many other hills and mountains to climb. And I think young people need that sort of inspiration. And I want to say one more thing, which is my last slide, my penultimate slide, about Ade. And that Ade was the one, can you change slide please, 18? That he inspired all of us. He inspired me, and last slide, second last slide. And that Ade gave us the courage to move beyond. Okay, we can't change the slide, I'll just say, Ade, you have moved all of us, to move beyond, especially, national boundaries in your capacity in the UN, regional boundaries, technology boundaries. Remember, we set up the technology program within the UN that, that many of the developed countries didn't like. So we should be getting over, going beyond those boundaries. And Ade has been that mainstay in making sure we did that. Here we go, that he inspires all to move beyond with them. So Ade, thank you for being such an inspiration. I also want to say, Ade, you were also sometimes quite overpowering. But even in your being overpowering, you were awesome, So I'd love you to be as overpowering as you were then. And so, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time, and thank you for being such an attentive audience.
Thank you, Professor Maxland. Very exciting lecture. I recall in 2013, which was, I think that was my first time of meeting you in person also, at the ALC meeting in Ghana, in Accra, when you also brought this message about collaboration
Yes.
The equatorial
And
region.
Yeah, 2013 at team, and where are we now? 2023, and we still haven't started anything. Well, I haven't really, what is that word? Really taken the bull by the horns, and I hope that the younger people will take this on. I'm not sure I have any more energy to do this, but I'm sure Ade will be very unhappy to hear me saying I don't have any more energy. But yeah, we can try.
Well, I think the young people amongst us are listening. And another highlight I just wanted to mention was the issue of polar orbit satellites versus equatorial orbit satellites. That's also been a huge issue, especially in African countries, but especially in Nigeria also. And I guess Dr. Abiodun will want to describe his experience also, maybe when he has a chance to talk about the challenge and the opposition he had when he was trying to share the idea about the importance or why we should give priority to equatorial orbit satellites rather than polar orbit satellites. So thank you once again, Professor Maxland. I just want to see whether there is maybe just one or two questions for Professor Maxland. I recognize that I see comments, tributes, and testimonials in the chat box. Thank you very much. Keep them coming. Is there anybody that has a quick question, just one or two for Professor Maxland?
I'm just looking at the chat. Yeah, I don't see any questions there. Ade, why don't you ask me a question? What are my plans? When am I coming to Africa?
I think probably I know you. I don't know who knows you more from this group. But I've known you for so long, and you talk about me being inspiring, but you are more inspiring than I am.
Oh.
I really appreciate that. We met in 1993 in Bandung, Indonesia, as you rightly stated. And I walked into that room that day for breakfast, and you were sitting just by the window side. And anytime I fly, I want to sit by the window side. So I saw you there, and I said, okay, that lady there must be coming to my meeting. So let me find out who she is. And that was 1993, and we are still together. So thank God.
Yes. It was a long time ago, 1993. And then, I left UN 2013, and this is 2023. All the threes coming out. So
but I think the best thing you've done for me and for the world is to give the UN close to 10 years of your life.
Yeah, I gave 10 years of my life. This is true.
In the office for outer space. And you were there, the whole world was looking at you, and you try your best to always put the right foot forward. That was great. And the one thing that inspired, that inspired when I first met you was to realize that you're a pilot. I don't think most people know that. You fly airplanes. You just came back from a mountain retreat. And you're an active person, very active person. And God bless you.
Ade, this tribute is not about me, okay? It's about you. So let's stop this topic. Chris is laughing. Yeah, Chris, say something about Ade. Come on.
Bob Ryerson in Canada. Can I say something about Ade?
Of course.
I didn't have an opportunity to. I tried to get my little talk in, and it didn't get in on time. I have known Ade for almost 50 years. He was a postdoctoral fellow when I was a young scientist, and we got along so well that the day my firstborn son arrived, Ade and I went out for a beer to celebrate. And we have been friends, I think, ever since. And I appreciated Ade's contributions to the history of the Canada Centre for Remote Sensing. He helped change the title of it, indeed, as it said in one of the slides that was shown here. Ade, you're a great guy, and I'm happy to have been able to call you friend for all these years. And my young son is now a professor. So there we go.
Ooh.
That's good. That's good.
Professor Marsland,
Yes.
okay, there's a question, but before I read it, there's a question in the chat box, but maybe I give Guy. I see Guy's hand is up. I'm going to speak first. Guy?
You're talking about these questions. I'm looking at it too.
Yeah, I wanted to give Guy the opportunity to speak first. Can you hear me, Guy? I'm not sure you can hear me. Okay, you can go ahead and respond to the questions. There's a question from Rehab.
I'm not going to answer the question by Rehab. So I think that should be answered by you and Ade, but maybe I'll try to answer the question on the equatorial orbit, which is the next one. So up to you, up to you.
Okay, you can go ahead with the next one then. Yeah, you can go ahead. Do I read it out? Do you want me to read it out? It says, why do you think the African satellites are not on the equatorial orbit?
I think it's because of lack of information. Now, I know that when I decided that our solution, the solution for Malaysia, would be to launch a satellite into the near equatorial orbit, everyone said to me, this is not possible. You know, it's never been done before. You're going to have a problem. They all listed all the problems, you know. And when I look at each problem, I solved every one of them. Like, they thought that the engineering would be difficult. If you were, instead of the sun synchronous, you would be on the equatorial orbit. And so I called the engineers and said, so what's the problem? So is it we're going through too many eclipses or what, you know? Or are we going through a radiation field that is too hard, you know, too tough? All those questions went away. We could answer them. But the one big question that we had was, or I had, was who is going to launch us to the equatorial orbit? And maybe in Africa, that is the real problem. Who is going to launch you to the equatorial orbit? Because if you look at the launches, they are in Russia, they are in China, and therefore India, and therefore it's rather expensive to dock link and go back and go to the equator. I understand that, and I had gone many parts of the world to see who could provide us this equatorial launch, and that's when I found Elon Musk. So I was one of Elon Musk's first well, not admirer, but yeah. He had a McLaren in his garage. Oh my God. Anyway, that's beside the point. So he had this idea that he was going to launch from Kwajalein, you know, the islands in the Pacific. And he said that he would be able to inject us directly to the equatorial orbit. And straight away, we formed a partnership. And of course, there were problems because his rockets failed. And I told the Malaysian government that we are thinking of going with Elon Musk on a long-term basis. So just because he is not able, he has to delay the launch, does not mean that we're going to go out of the contract with him. And I don't know why I had that thought that our relationship with Elon Musk would be a long-term one. And he did launch us to the equatorial orbit, but unfortunately, he's now got too ambitious and he's not interested anymore in launching little satellites to the equatorial orbit. But then that's where I've been talking to Brazil, for instance. Brazil can also launch to the equator, but then there is a solution. I mean, you have to look for it, you know. And the other thing that they talked to me about was that it would be difficult to analyze the data because at the equatorial orbit, the sun would be changing all the time, And of course, computers can do that. Computers can make all those corrections as well. No, nothing is impossible. And going to the equatorial orbit is feasible. And we should think of that.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Maxland. Before maybe Dr. Abiodun will respond to the question maybe when he's speaking, but I still want maybe somebody to respond to the issue of the African Space Agency. And I don't know if Mr. Nongiema, Andre, sorry, I'm putting you on the spot if you're available, if you want to respond to that. Mr. Nongiema from the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. He was also part of those who developed the African Space Policy and Strategy, which also led to the establishment of the African Space Agency. Mr. Nongema? Andre? I don't know whether he's there. Okay, I think we can move forward. So,
team, there's Guy Pinole who wants to speak. He's got his hand up.
Yes, is it?
On my screen.
Yeah, let me see. I think you can unmute, Guy. I think.
Okay, I reactivated the. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's a bit noisy, but...
I want to say thank you, Professor Othman. This is a great presentation, and thank you, everybody. 10 days ago, I was at the United Nations to propose an 18th objective for sustainable development. And I have put in this discussion the link that everybody can have this great conference and can watch the whole day was recorded. So if you look at discussion, I have put the link. Thank you. And this is a great conference, and I'm so happy I was here to go to attend and listen. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. There's Ekundayo Balagun who wants to speak.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate this. In fact, I only knew about this just about 3 or 4 days ago. But I am very happy for this occasion. Particularly, I'm happy that this conversation is about Abiodun, Adigun Abiodun. I think he is one person that I'm very, very, very proud of. The first time we met was in 1973 that we started to discuss about remote sensing and things like that. And from then until 1998, when the center at Ife was established, November 24th, 1998, that the center started. And it has continued till now. And we have many people from different parts of Africa coming to the center to know something about space. And I must say that what we have today from the speakers, from people who have made comments from all parts of the world, from Australia to Malaysia, I'm overwhelmed. And I want to thank Ashley. I want to thank everybody responsible for this program. I retired in 2006 from the center, but I still get in touch with the center, and I hope that the center will cooperate with everybody in this world to enhance what we get from space. I remember when I started the Space Center in Ife, somebody said, look, there are so many problems on Earth. Why do you go to space when there are problems to solve on Earth? And I said, look, if we are to solve the problem on Earth, we must be able to go to space so that we can see every section of the Earth at once. And I'm particularly happy today that I'm speaking from the US. Actually, I'm in the US now. I'm speaking from the northeastern part of the US, and I hope that I can contribute more to the development of space science in Africa. I don't want to talk too much. I'll stop now and allow people to make comments, and particularly I'm happy to see Dr. Abiodun's face. I am particularly happy, and I'm happy to see Etim. I call him Etim. And I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Balogun. Thank you.
The foundation you laid at the center was very solid. And as you know, I'm still at the center, even though I'm on study leave right now. And one of your sons is now the director, as you may be aware, Professor Babatunde Rabiu. So
yes.
I think we are on course to fulfill your dreams and your vision. And the center marks 25 years this year in November, as you may be aware. And I think there are programs being lined up to mark the 25 years of existence of the center. So thank you very much. Thank you to Dr. Abiodun also. I know two of you work together in trying to ensure that the center, facilitating the communal center to Nigeria. Thank you, sir. I see Mr. Kehinde Abiodun sound is up.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Kehinde Abiodun. I'm speaking from United Kingdom. And as a family member, I want to say the quality of leadership of our great dad, Dr. Name it all, Dr. Adigun Abiodun. And it has inspired us, even though in Abiodun family, we are a very small family. You can see the quality of leadership as he has exhibited around the world. At the moment, he is our family head. And during the COVID, he has done something marvelous in the family by using the Zoom as a way of bringing the whole of Abiodun family together all over the world under the name of Godful. So that shows you and shows everybody that Dr. Adigun Abiodun is great man. And I'm so pleased, I'm so happy that you've all expressed your personal opinion and most of the things he has done around the world, and we pray for good health for him. We pray for long life, and we thank you all on behalf of Abiodun family for showcasing this event. May God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Kehinde.
There's a video tribute that Faith, if you can play that tribute.
My name is Peter Olufemi Adeniyi. I first met Dr. Adigun Abiodun in 1975 in Canada when he was about completing his report on space at the Canada Center for Remote Sensing. Since that time, we've become so close and we've been working together on a number of fronts. Dr. Abiodun is a passionate individual about space development in Africa, and in particular in Nigeria. Since about middle of 1970s till 1999, Dr. Abiodun used his position at the UN to ensure that so many African scientists and engineers benefited tremendously through the conferences and seminars and workshops. I want to particularly say something about Nigeria. Whatever is not documented, very little can be learned. I want to sincerely thank Dr. Abiodun for his book on Nigeria's space journey, Understanding his Past and Reshaping the Future. He is never tired. He lives with space. He dreams about space. And anybody opening any discussion with Abiodun is about how Nigeria and Africa can develop. We have not reached the level that he wants, but he has led a good fight. And so I want to thank the organizer of this particular event. Some people will have died before they recognize them, but in the case of Abiodun, it's not like that. So I pray to God to grant him good health, to grant him long life, so that before he passes on, he will have seen that the situation about development of space technology will have been improved. Congratulations, Adi. I love you the way you love Africa and Nigeria.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Hello, my name is.
So that was a mistake. So coincidentally, today is Dr. Abiodun's birthday. Today, 26th September. Some of us may be aware. I don't know that I'm permitted to tell his age in African culture.
You are permitted. You are permitted.
So today, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Dr. Abiodun will be 84.
Correct.
Okay, because I remember I wrote something when you're on your 80th birthday. So I want us to sing a birthday song for him. But before that, I think maybe some people want to speak first. I see Mr. Pandoye's hand is up. You're muted, sir.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I happen to be the first undergraduate that Dr. Abiodun supervised at IFE. And I just like in his profile, he was talking about the water supply to the university. I did the preliminary work on the river, Okpa River, the runoff, rainfall runoff. And since then, we developed such a close relationship. When he was in Canada for the 1976, he was my supervisor, undergraduate supervisor. I was in the university as a graduate assistant. And when he finished, we've been so close. When I was going to the US for my postgraduate study, he wanted me to look into the area of remote sensing and water. In fact, he struggled so much hard for me to be part of the remote sensing family. Unfortunately, I'm a hardcore person. I prefer the hydraulics and the river system. I finished on complex river system. But all along, he monitors me. In fact, the first thing I want to tell people is that he was one of the first professional engineers that IFE employed. And at that period, engineering faculty were not keen on professionalism. So because of that, he encouraged me to become a professional engineer. That when I got to California, I also make sure I applied and got my professional registration in California in civil engineering and a licensed surveyor. And he was always in communication with me. When I came back to IFE as a lecturer, Dr. Abiodun will come all the way. If it has anything to do in Africa, Nigeria, he will make sure it gets to my family. I just want to appreciate you. Congratulations first for your birthday. You are my mentor, you know that. You know I love you, my family loves you. When he was in Abuja as a special assistant, I was in Kaduna. In fact, almost every 2 weekends, I go to see him. And we travel together to come home to Abiodun village, if I use the right word. So, Dr. Abiodun, we are happy for you that you are being honored while you are still alive. You know, the rest of my family members, they know you, they love you, they appreciate your role in our lives. And so I want to congratulate you again. Don't let me, but that I want to give others the opportunity to talk. God continue to grant you good health. My greetings to Judy too, so that people know how close we are. So God richest blessing. Amen.
Thank you, Sanjo.
Thank you, Mr. Bamidele. I've not had the opportunity of meeting you, but let me also thank you for how you helped when Dr. Abiodun was launching his book in Abuja.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your immense support. Bruce?
Yes, this is something that Adi wouldn't know, but I also celebrated my elder brother's birthday today, who's also 84. So 84 years ago, without knowing Adi and not knowing my older brother, we were born, one in Africa and one in Australia. So it's just his birthday today. So congratulations, Adi.
Thank you very much, Bruce. Say hello to your brother for us.
Thank you, Professor Foster. Yeah, Andrea, please. I was trying to reach you earlier. Please, you have the floor, Andrea.
Thank you very much, team. My name is Andre Nongerma, and I'm the chief of the Geospatial Information Management section at the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. Maybe I'm the most younger among all the people who have talked so far, but my first encountering with Professor Abiodun happened in July 1999 during the Unispace 3 conference in Vienna. And I can say that has made all the difference till today. And Professor Abiodun has been a role model for all of us in the science and technology field in Africa. And as the saying goes, people will forget what you have said, and people will even forget what you have done. But one thing that will never be taken from us is the impact we have on others, and particularly the impact of Professor Abiodun on all of us. While words will never fully capture the sincere gratitude we hold for you, Professor Abiodun, we can continue to honor and celebrate your impact and legacy by how we continue also to serve, lead, and discharge our duties for Africa and for the United Nations at the global level. So thank you very much for having crossed our path at some point in our life. And I can assure you that this makes all the difference till today. And happy birthday to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andre. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you, Andre. Please, while I still have you, I was trying to reach you earlier because of a question that is here on the chat box. Andre was one of the members of the African Union Space Working Group that developed the African Space Policy and Strategy, and eventually the African Space Agency. So there's a question here, Andre, which, if you don't mind, I want you to respond to. It says, regarding the formal inauguration of the African Space Agency, how could that push forward the space industry in Africa, especially as not all African countries are getting involved in this endeavor? You're muted, Andre.
Sorry. I believe that personally that putting in place the African Space Agency will foster the partnership and collaboration we are looking for, and help us build some of the regional blocks that are needed to enhance or strengthen space activity in the continent. And I believe with that, the African Space Agency will help us amplify or increase the uptake of space science and technology in Africa. And then, of course, this will have a benefit directly on the space industry in the continent. This is how I can just say quickly on this question. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Andrea, and thanks so much for your support for ASLI, the African Space Leadership Institute, since its inauguration last year. Andrea was one of the speakers at the launch event last year. I think finally for now, we have Adigun Kepopola. I think that'll be the last for now. We can continue the discussion later. Adigun Kepopola. You're muted if...
Hello.
Yeah, please go ahead. You have the floor.
Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, or good evening, depending on your location. I just want to say congratulations to my uncle. He is my uncle, but I start to call him Daddy anytime. So I just want to say congratulations to him. I appreciate and I'm so blessed with all his achievements. I say thank you so much. And I want to wish him a happy birthday because he has been so good and so nice to me. He's my daddy and he knows I love him as much as he loves me. Thank you, everyone. God bless you. Happy birthday, Daddy.
I love you, Daddy. Okay, thanks. I love you. Say hello to your family.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Pofola. So I think it's fitting for us to sing a birthday song for Dr. Abiodun before we give him an opportunity to respond to what everybody has said, and maybe if you have questions for him also, we can interact with him. But I think before he comes up, let's you can unmute ourselves, and we sing a birthday song for him.
Okay.
So, okay, 1, 2, go.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday
My colleague Jimba is there. Oh my goodness.
Many happy returns. Okay, Dr. Abiodun, we wish you a very happy birthday, and we are really happy to have you. I had my first personal contact with you was in 2011. I was privileged to win the SGAC Abiodun. It was called Adigun Abiodun Scholarship Award. And I had the opportunity, that gave me the opportunity to attend the ALC in, that was in Kenya, Mombasa, Kenya in 2011. And that was back to back with the IAC, which was held for the first time in Africa at Cape Town in South Africa. And since then, you took me up as your son. Coincidentally, biologically, you have girls, so it was just naturally fitting for me to come in as the only son. Thank you so much for all your support for me, my family. I mean, all through the years, including when I was doing my master's at GWU, where Professor Maxland also, when I was doing my master's in science and technology policy with a focus on space policy, Professor Maxland was doing a fellowship then. We were both at the Space Policy Institute at that time.
Yes.
So it's thank you so much for your support all the years, and all the organizations you've directly or indirectly have been involved in, ASE, ALC, and of course, ASLI, and many other things you've done. So really appreciate you, and we wish you good health and strength.
Thank you.
So I hand over to you. I don't know whether you have any comments, any responses, and then I think we can.
Thank you very much, everyone. God has been good to you, to me, to my wife, to my family. And I really, I don't know what to say in terms of thanking you. Only God can help me to thank each and every one of you on this program this morning. It's morning for me because we had to wake up 5 a.m. this morning to be here for this event. But it's a joyful event for me. But when you are doing all of this for me, it's not because of my own effort. I leaned on the shoulders of so many people, including virtually all of you on this program to this day. I started my my first job with one of my father's friends looking at me and said, "Oh, you finished the school cert?" I said, "Yes, sir." "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, that exam was too tough. I'm tired." He said, "Okay, see me tomorrow." And then I saw him the following day. He gave me an envelope. And the man's name is Chief Kuye. His son is a medical doctor who lives in New Jersey, and it's my big brother. And I took the letter to Lagos. I didn't know what was in the envelope. And that began my history of what Mrs. What's her name? President Clinton's wife, Hillary Clinton, said, "It takes a village to raise a child." That is my life history. But I also want to thank my dad and my mom, because my dad died when I was young. I think my dad passed away at the age of 9 for me when I was 9. But he left an unwritten will to be implemented by his own brothers, that my sister and myself should be taken out of the village and sent to Abeokuta to be educated. And we went to Abeokuta, and Kehinde here, his father was that man who made it possible. And when I got to Abeokuta, I went to Mrs. Kuti class. I didn't know what it was, but later on I discovered it was an elite school. That is, all of you know Fela Rason Kuti. That was his mother's school. And from one step to another, one day to another, I ended up in the United States. And the producer of the program told you I'm from the University of Washington. That's true. But again, that was an accident, because the day that scholarship application closed in Nigeria, that was the day I applied for it. And when they called me for the interview, they had so many magazines of American universities. The only promise I made is that if the question came up, I would not choose any university in Southern United States. And the question came up, if we give you this scholarship, where do you want to study? And I had picked up 3 bulletins before going inside. And all the 3 bulletins were bulletins of the University of Washington. And I knew nothing about the University of Washington. In actual fact, I called Seattle at the interview. I said Seattle, because it's spelled as S-E-A. So the rest was history. I landed in the US with Falomo, who's on this program. The same day, we came on the same scholarship. And we were handed over to host families all over the place. My host family, after 3 days, I stopped them. I said, "What language do you speak in this house?" And the woman, the old lady of the house said, Ade, we speak English. And I threw up my hand in the air. You don't speak English in this house. And then she said, what do you speak? I said, you speak American. He said, what about you? I said, me? Of course, I speak Queen's English, you know. But that family helped me grow up. And like that, many, many people have helped me in my growth and in my development. And I'm grateful to all of you for taking time to be on this program. I celebrate each and every one of you. From Maslan, our speaker today, honorable speaker for that matter, to the youngest, Mrs. Pupola, who spoke. Her father is my first cousin, or was my first cousin. Her father had passed. And I was the man who spoke about water. That was my student at Ife. Professor Adigun, who is here, when we started the center at Ife, I already knew him, and I didn't see anybody more qualified than him to head that center. Professor Balogun, thank you very much for giving the center the leadership it deserves. Unfortunately, the Nigerian government, in applying for that center, said they were going to give the center $500,000 to start with. I don't think they have spent $500,000 on that center in the 25-year history that has been there. And I have to thank Canada, because about space, I say anything I know about space, it started from Canada. TAB was the beginning, but Canada put the fuel in my tank. And I'm grateful. Bob, please convey my heartiest greetings to all the Canadians who supported me. And I can go on and on. I've seen on this program all my relatives, and I see Bankole Jimba, Professor Balogun, Dr. Green, Tandy, my wife's niece, and so on and so forth. All of you are wonderful. That you took time to be here. God bless you. You made me happy, and I hope I'll be able to return the joy. Maslan, when you spoke very well, you spoke eloquently. And I agree with you. Yes, we need to be in space as developing countries. But we need to know why we are going into space. That is my biggest problem.
Yeah.
When I arrived in Nigeria, in actual fact, Nigeria saw me as their own, and they could send me anywhere. So I was supposed to be sent to South Africa to help South Africa develop space. And at that meeting on November 8, 2000, and 1999, just 2 months after my retirement at the UN, I raised my finger at the meeting with the president of Nigeria. I said, sir, can I contribute to this discussion? He said, yes. I said, when you talk about space in Africa, and I raised my finger up in the air, South Africa is there. And I turned my finger in the opposite direction, turning it down. I said, Nigeria is down there. So if you really want me to be helpful to Africa, let me start with Nigeria. I'm not looking for a job, but I believe I can contribute some ideas on how Nigeria should start its space program. Only 6 months, and I'll give you my report. Professor Balogun, who is here with us today, contributed to that report. And it was shown on the slide that was projected earlier. But as the video about me showed, before I got to Nigeria, they have made a decision to buy a satellite. by a country that has not been building ordinary bicycle or motor bicycle. You already decided to buy a satellite. You don't know anything about technology, nothing. And I was miffed. I tried my best, but it didn't work because a decision had been made by the insiders. And I was definitely not an insider in Nigeria. I was totally an outsider. Okay. And then the issue of signing the agreement, that for me was woeful, but it was signed. So I came to the country to help the country develop a space program, meaning you know something about space, but use it first for the development of the country, not just because you want to be an African leader, that all African countries can look up to you. No. Let your people benefit from what you can do with space technology. Use it to improve your communication. If you read my book, you see all the wires or telephone wires that were lumped together in Nigeria when I got there. But I don't want you to be a space person or a space country because you can go to Kenya and beat your chest that, oh, we got there before you. What for? You are burning money for nothing. More so when you build a satellite, or you didn't build it, when you bought a satellite, you could not control. And the company that built the satellite for you gave you a tracking station and left another tracking station in your own yard in UK. And when your own station won't work, the UK station will collect data and come and sell it to you from your own satellite. Mm-hmm. These are my problems. And then Aslan touched on my most important subject for Africa, especially tropical Africa and subtropical, the use of the equatorial orbit. What are we doing in the polar orbit? What do we plant in South Pole or North Pole? I can understand you made a mistake the first time. What of the second time? What of the third time? And yet those who followed you are making the same mistake. Everybody is going to the polar orbit. And you get orbital observation once every 6 days or more. Whereas if you have a satellite that goes around the equator, you get about 16 observations the same day. So you have a disaster, whether it's flood or fire, hurricane, you can monitor it very well if you have that. I've preached that you should go get Malaysia, get Indonesia, get Brazil, get Nigeria, get Kenya, and form an equatorial country that can work in space together. If you want to be in space, be there for the right reason. Again, when you talk about space, you go to a country like Sweden, like Australia, they knew how to use space better than even some of the countries that have the satellites, and yet they didn't have any. In other words, you don't need to have a satellite to use satellite data to improve your life. So my message to us in Africa and the rest of the developing countries is very simple. Use space to solve your problems on the ground. Balogun answered that question, or somebody answered that question today. Not because you want to be there in space, more especially when, as a result of orbital debris, your satellite is ready to be knocked off and you cannot control it. Nigeria Sat 1 or Sat 2 within 2 months apart, had that experience. And without NASA, the satellite would have been knocked off, no matter what insurance you have. So my request is that we need to understand the difference between the pursuit of space race, and we don't have a space race as we used to, but the pursuit of space cooperation. First of all, if you are going to cooperate about space, you must start with science and technology. You must have a solid foundation in science and technology. When you are running the space program in your country and your universities are not part of that effort, and it becomes a civil service operation, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And if I want to thank any country in the world today for making space better for most countries in the developing world, it's Sweden. Somehow, they opened their door for me when I went there in 1989. And we negotiated. I said, we're in my office in New York. We are running these courses. Many of these young people, they come to Europe, they learn about space, and they only use European examples to address their own condition back home, which is not relevant. I want to set up centers all around the developing countries. Let us do that. And that was how the partnership between my office on behalf of the UN and the Swedish government started. And they brought the geography department in Stockholm University to be the lead institution to help us. Because they brought also other institutions in Sweden to be party to this event. So, and we were there together for 9 years, 6 weeks every year, only for university educators. Maybe really, occasionally we brought some technicians. I'm grateful for that. So, and the hope is that I'm trying to more or less carry out what the Chinese say. You want to feed a person, you give him a meal, but you want the person to feed himself, then show him how to grow what he's going to eat, and he'll be able to feed himself, rather than you feeding him every day. Because to feed himself every day, you need cooperation. But are the developing getting the real cooperation with the industrialized countries on space? Particularly when we are talking about helping us build a satellite, and you would not give us the source code that operates that satellite. It is not right. It is not right. Because when we had a meeting in Abuja, I don't think I can remember the exact date, but I think when we're celebrating the 10th anniversary of NASDAQ, that would be 2009. And somebody from the company that built Nigerian satellite came, and we're talking about Nigerian satellite. And I said, I have a question for you. You people knew about the equatorial orbit. Why did you send Nigerian satellite to the polar orbit? Oh, it just says because of economics. I said, economics in whose benefit? Yours or ours? He said, I'm not supposed to answer that question. And that was the end of it. So I believe that if you want to establish a space program, You establish it not because it is a national achievement or that it gives you pride, but because it is going to produce multiplying effects on your economy, on your industrial production, and it will enhance science and technology development in your country, and as well as improve the quality of life of the people. So for the developing countries, my advice, particularly to those who make decisions on science and technology and those who want to go into space, is very simple. Get all your educated people together, get all your decision makers together, constitute a little group, and let them be called a fact-finding group. Let them undertake on your behalf, on behalf of you, the people of this given country, or is it Africa, on behalf of Africa. Let them take a genuine study and learning mission to a number of countries in the world. And I will name them: Brazil, Canada, India, South Africa, and Sweden. Why are they going on this mission? It's to gain a better understanding and an appreciation for what it means to be an active and successful player in science and technology and in the space enterprise of today and tomorrow. While in India, these fact finders on our behalf will need to ascertain from the Indian host what they, the Indians, mean when they say our space applications program is user-driven. And when you want to understand what that means in India, you have to go to India and realize that the Indians went to the United States and borrowed an abandoned communication satellite to use to educate their people in illiteracy, in hygiene, and so on and so forth. That was how India got into space. And it was called Site Experiment, NSIT. You know, similarly, they should go to South Africa and find out what South Africans say, that the South Africans, they are the African eye on the universe. And in each space establishment visited, these fact finders on behalf of Africa or on behalf of any African country or Middle East or any other developing countries, they should look and examine the setup of the respective space organizations, assess the caliber of their employees, especially that of their space experts, and the leadership of each organization, objectively evaluate the organizational culture and the kinds of discipline that permeate each organizational setting, observe and study the level of dedication to duty of these employees, the creative and nourishing environments in which they work, and appraise their sense of duty and commitment to the goals set by their leaders for the betterment of their people. Because why am I asking this to be done? Because it will be illuminating for us if our fact finders will also ask some specific questions from their hosts. Question 1, what lessons have you learned from your successes and mistakes? If you were to start all over again, what will you do differently? And what lessons can we, your guests, learn from your international cooperation approaches? Because if we, the fact finders, if we are committed to become a veritable, capable people in space, such an exchange of views should provide us with a better sense of what it will take to do the same in our respective countries. Okay? And if we will bring that lesson back, maybe we in turn in future, if we take the lessons back home and learn and try to do to the level that we can, maybe we someday will be able to proclaim that space is our own operational tool of development. Today, space is not a tool of development in most of the developing countries. It is a tool of pride. That is what it is. When you are promising your political leaders that you want to establish a launching pad in an African country, because no matter how many natural resources you have, whether it's oil or gold or diamond, whatever, you are telling your political leaders that because you have a launching pad in your country, you are going to make more money for the government. Let us talk let us say the truth. Let us speak the truth, because it's not right. It is not right. And my prayer is that the African youth, people like Etim and others within his orbit, will take to heart the lessons the Space Generation Advisory Council is doing. It's a bunch of young people who started in 1999 when we were having the 1999 third UN conference on space called Unispace 3. These young people came to the UN not only to fight us, but they want to be heard. And I appeal to you, do the same in your respective countries. Give your decision makers enough information to let them realize that you need to be heard. Because the future belongs to you, not to them. And if they make the wrong mistakes and spend all the money and destroy the economy, what are you going to do? So when in 2009, when the Space Generation Advisory Council was celebrating its 10th birthday, they invited me to come and address them as a keynote speaker. And they were talking about cooperation. And I said to them, how can we cooperate and develop together with the current and ongoing restrictions on knowledge sharing? We are not sharing knowledge because Africa has been told or develop through training instead of education. When the focus is on promoting on the applications of technologies developed abroad, instead of building and sustaining technology development at home with indigenous efforts. We have a lot of qualified people who are not making the necessary impact into the country's development. So my plea for the young people of Africa and the rest of the world, particularly developing countries, is that they should forget that politics and ideologies divide while passion and idealism unite. And that is what is driving the SGAC. And they should not forget that three critical elements that are the driving forces behind the growth of the organization, that is the SGAC. and its successes today is because of their passion, their ideals, and their relevance. So I just want to conclude by saying thank you all. And for the youth of the world, and particularly in Africa, you people in the future generations, and your compatriots all over the world, and in the economy, in the emerging economies of the world, it is my belief that as He, our Almighty God, has done and continues to do for me, God will guide each and every one of you, even when you cannot see the path ahead. Our goal is to inspire you. And I think the people who spoke on this program today are among the most inspiring people I've ever listened to. So strive in your life to make a difference and be agents of change wherever you may be. And may the God Almighty be with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
And before I close, I just want to thank all of you from the bottom of my heart. I really do. I feel like crying because this ATM brought this to us, that we have to celebrate you this way. And I fought him over it. I know he was angry with me, but after so many, there's a limit to how many times you can reject somebody's goodwill. I had to say yes. You can go ahead. And in saying yes, you and your collaborators, you went into the world and brought all these people together. And they are my best of friends. They are my best of people. I love each and every one of you, and I thank you very much. If I may tell the truth, my wife slept only 1 hour in the last 24 hours just for this program, in terms of what she has done to help me get ready for this day. Judy, I love you. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you.
So I just don't know. I thank you all. I thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. It's been an honor and privilege for me, actually. I don't think we need any formal vote of thanks again. You've already given thanks and appreciated everybody. And I think I also want to add to that to appreciate everybody. The notice came late. I know some people were on holiday. They didn't see the email on time. But hopefully this will be an annual event. And but my challenge, I still have a challenge for Dr. Abiodun. I've said it in private, but maybe I should say it publicly. And that's to get his autobiography out. So my challenge now is that I don't know if it's possible by the next edition of this lecture, if we can be launching your autobiography. That's one. And then the second one has to do with the African Space Agency, which Professor Foster also mentioned. African Space Foundation, another great initiative which you set up a few years ago for the young people especially, and for Africa's future. We need that foundation to, we need to see it, we need to get it running. And I believe the participants here are, I mean, as you said, your friends, your brothers, they are very willing. And I believe I'm speaking on their behalf also to see the autobiography and to see the African Space Foundation. So that's
I do my best. I do my best.
Okay. So thank you, everyone. I think we've kind of come to the end of the program, but I won't shut down the Zoom meeting in case you want to interact with Dr. Abiodun. Some of us have not seen him for a long time. At this point, normally maybe we should have gone for some drinks. So maybe if you want to bring your drinks to the table and interact with Dr. Abiodun, that's fine. For some others, they may need to go to sleep now or do some other things. But thank you so much, everybody, for honoring the invitation. And we look forward to seeing you around this time next year. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you. God bless you. Thank you. And thanks to everyone. Thank you indeed. Thank you.
Great
Jose,
job.
Jose, yeah. Shegun, you are here.
Yes,
okay.
yes, of course. Yes, I would not miss it.
They just left for school. I'm here with Michelle.
Ah, okay. Thanks.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Carol, good morning. And I see the Moon Sisters are here as well. So thank you. Thank you very much. Andre from Addis Ababa. Akin, my own Akin.
Thank you. Happy birthday to you, Prof.
Ah, okay. Tunde.
Happy birthday, sir.
That okay. How are you? Oh, how are you? Jimba. How
Sir,
do you do? Are you still
I'm
in
doing just, no, I'm in Abuja, sir.
In Abuja. Okay, so that means you
Yes,
have
sir.
a lot of money. Okay.
Not really, sir.
The
Happy
man on the
birthday,
left
sir.
of your screen is my classmate at the University of Washington, Chris Kaufman. Chris put up, he's the one put up his hand there. And we just spent about almost a week with him in August this year. We were classmates. He's a waterman to no end. So, and Chris, God bless you for being on this program with us. Thank you very much. And Bruce from Australia, love you, love you, love you.
Thank you, Adi. It's
Thank
now
you very
approaching. It's now approaching midnight here, so
Oh.
I'm, Jan's gone to bed, so I'm sort of
Okay.
just holding out.
Okay.
But
Okay. Help us say hello to her.
I
Help
will.
us say
I
hello to
will.
her. Yeah. And this is my own nephew, Tony Olaleye. Hi, Tunde, how are you? So God bless you. Thank you for coming. I'm okay. And that's my baby in Boston, Ademidun. Ajibade is here. So Wega, that's my junior first cousin. His father raised me. Adegwega Odubi. So God bless you for being there. And I can see you at Sanjo from Abeokuta. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. Oh, Shana is here from Jamaica. That's from Judy's family. Yeah. So how are you, Shana? So please say hello to everybody for us.
Sure, Uncle Adi.
Okay, how are you? How are you? Miss Kaba Kurungi, are you in Uganda or you are somewhere else? So we can see you.
I'm in Uganda now.
Yeah, Uganda now.
I'm back in Uganda.
And we hope your mission.
Happy
How was your mission in Brazil? Was it
It was
successful?
Yes, please. It was amazing. Thank you so much.
Oh, okay. You are welcome. On the bottom of my own screen is my brother, Michael Yinka Abiodun. So that's my junior brother in Michigan. Yinka, good afternoon or good morning. What time is it? Oh, it's good morning for both of us. So how are you, Yinka? Thank you for coming and joining us. God bless you. And as Miss Joy Olaiwola, how are you, madam?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, madam. Where are you speaking from?
I'm in Abuja.
In Abuja. Okay. I don't like your city anyway, so you can keep it. So, but I hope you are doing well there.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Actually, I work with NASDAQ. I just dropped the post now.
It's nice. Okay.
And,
When I first came to Abuja, there were no cars. You know, I'm serious. When I joined the government, they said they were going to give me 4 cars. I said, why do I need 4 cars? They said, one for you, one for Madam, and one for your staff, and then you need one as a pilot, a pilot car. I said, what do you mean by a pilot car? It's to drive off the traffic so you can move freely. I said, I only need 1 car. Only 1 car. I don't need 4 cars. But to get the 1 car, I had to write about 5 appeals to get 1 car. So, so I don't know. And there's a Mr. Mayowa Pashono.
Thank you so much for your lecture, sir.
Right, thank you very much. Mr. Pashono,
Yes,
how are
sir.
you?
Thank you, sir.
Buega, my own Buega, how are you doing? Yeah, you are muted, okay. And then, let me see, that Guy Pinole, how are you, sir? So happy to Benga. That's Benga Abiodun. That's also.
This is Guy Pinole, and I come from Reunion Island in the Indian Ocean. We are like a small planet on the big planet. And okay. In the 90s, I was chairman of the education committee of the IF.
Okay, thank you for joining us. God bless you. We really appreciate your presence.
It is a great conference, and I hope to keep in touch with all the people who participated. That's fantastic.
Thank you very much. And there is this Mr. Odeyemi Adedamola. How are you, sir? Your mic. Let everybody unmute their mic because we cannot. I want you to respond back to us so that I can. And there's also Mr. Ife Oyekami. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm fine. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. How do you do? Thank you for coming. Yeah, talk to us. Talk to us, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so much impressed and I'm so much impressed by the lecture.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and Mr. Abdullahi Oyedele Oyelakin, how are you?
Fine, sir. I'm fine, sir.
Good morning. How do you do?
I'm fine.
Ronke, something is making noise in your place. Okay, okay.
Yeah, it's quite noisy. I went to pick up my son from school.
Okay. Joy in Wazegwe. Joy, where are you speaking from?
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Where are you speaking from?
From Ileife, OAU Ileife.
Ah, my own OAU Ileife. Okay.
Actually got the invite from Professor Kufu.
Ah, okay.
Professor for me, yes, sir.
Okay, so please thank him for sharing that information with you.
We're happy birthday, sir.
Right. And no, and then I know Professor Adinfoshi from Akure. I saw you earlier, but in this small screen they gave us, I don't see you here now. Maybe you're gone.
Yeah.
So okay, yeah, a lot of people have left, right? So now all of you continue to make a difference in our lives. You continue to give us joy, and on your behalf, I thank Marsland coming from Kuala Lumpur to address us today. And I don't need to add anything to what she said about how we met and the relationship we developed over the years, but it has been a joy. And it has been a joy for me to see and know each of you. Benga, Abiodun, thank you very much for being here with us as well. You know, God bless each and every one. But if anybody has any question for me, let them speak. I will be happy to answer.
Hello, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, this is Odeyemi Adedamola.
Right.
All right. I'm a fresh graduate from the University of Technology, Mina. So I graduated this year. So I was inspired by this lecture. I want to appreciate you, sir, for the words of wisdom you have shared for us on the platform this afternoon, and also all the speakers. I'm so educated, so enlightened, and I got a lot of exposure. And above it all, I was really inspired. I was inspired in the see how I can also contribute my quota to the Nigerian space sector, and also to try to learn more. So I really want to appreciate you that for this and for every other contributors and speakers on this project. Thank you so very much.
My request to you back in Nigeria there, get to know the man who put all of these things together, Mr. Etimopian, and liaise with him. He's at Ife. He's at the center at Ife, and I'm happy he's there. I remember when we were trying to establish that center and the other centers around the world. I went to Western Europe. I don't know the country, whether I think it might be Norway. I went there to Norway to seek support. And they told me, Mr. Abiodun, why are you trying to take sophisticated technologies to the developing countries? And I look and I smile. I said, so you want us to continue sending all the raw products to you so that we don't become an industrial entity? We need our own factories. We cannot follow what Stansell of Britain said. Stansell said they are an industrialized country because they can go anywhere in the world, get the raw products, and get the factory in Britain to be churning out industrial goods based on the sweat of people in the in the developing countries. I said things has to change. And my prayer is that in our individual countries, our politicians, or better still, our political leaders, or better still, those who see themselves as our leaders, we recognize today that we are being treated like the British treated us during the colonial era. That is, they give orders and we obey. When I left secondary school to come to America, the arrangement between President Kennedy and Nigeria at that time was for America to help Nigeria and other developing countries in Africa grow their human resources, develop their human resources, so that they can replace people whom Kennedy has sent out as members of the Peace Corps group. My friend Chris Kaufman, who is still here with us, who was my classmate at the University of Washington, was part of that group of Peace Corps from America. He went and served in Pakistan. And I think he served in the Middle East as well. But we were supposed to go back after our education and take over from people like Chris. But the question you have to answer for you, for yourself, and for me today is that, are we being recognized? Are we being utilized? You need recognition and you need utilization. And in the absence of both, what happens to our talents? If they are not recognized, they are not utilized, or underutilized or misutilized, where can we produce? When I left, I left New York in 1979. I remember the exact date, November 5. Professor Adeni mentioned it earlier. To run my first course in Nigeria, UN course in Nigeria on remote sensing at University of Ibadan. Peter came to that course and helped me tremendously. We had a send-off party given to us by Nigerian government at Premier Hotel in Ibadan. And there were two young assistant lecturers at the University of Ibadan. I think both of them were in chemistry department. And apparently they have written a proposal to the Ministry of Science and Technology for financial support to carry out their work, to carry out their research. And it wasn't giving them any help. Somehow they concluded that I could help them. So they came to me and said, can you help us talk to the minister? So during the reception, I approached the minister. I said, Honorable Minister, let me tell you what was funny about that minister. We were colleagues, not because we went to the same university or we were working in the same place, but we boarded the same plane to come to America on August 2nd, 1962. We came on the same scholarship. But when he came back to Nigeria, he joined politics. And so he became a minister eventually when I got to meet him again. So I said, Honorable Minister, these people have told me this and that and that and that. And can we see a way how you can help them, please? He said, whom are you talking about? I said, these two young men. He said, oh, come on, those are upstarts. We need experts in this country. I said, you need experts? Where are you going to get them if you don't use your upstarts to start with? He said, look, you don't understand what I'm talking about. I said, what is it you're talking about, sir? He says, see, I just came back from Germany. And the Germans have developed this equipment. And I'm speaking with the president to import this equipment because that equipment can do almost about anything for us. And then I look at him, I said, so when that equipment now develops any hiccups, who's going to service it in Nigeria? Aren't we going to go back to Germany with our hard-earned currencies and pay them to come back and service it? He said, you don't understand what I'm saying. That's what we need. I said, sir, you are promoting technological overgorging, which will lead to technological constipation, and it will lead to technological indigestion for this country. For a minister in your position to be advocating that for this young country called Nigeria, I don't believe I have to do anything with you. Honorable Minister, good night. And that was the end of my conversation with them. I don't know up to today whether those people got their job done or not. But on the other hand, I go back to Ife, and that's on the left side, there's Professor Balogun. He was just about to retire from the university. We had worked together as colleagues at the university. And there's Sweetin, also a professor at Surrey University. What's the commonality between Balogun of Ife and Surrey of UK? Surrey of UK and his colleagues started looking and building small little components that can go into satellites. Balogun at Ife as the number one, and I say number one, meteorologist in Africa when he was at Ife. He got a group of people together and developed a meteorological antenna to be acquiring satellite data from meteorological satellites that were orbiting the Earth as they pass over Nigeria. All Balogun needed But the same thing, Sweden or UK needed. Support. Professor Balogun is here. He can speak for himself if he wants to, and he can educate us on that. But he didn't get any support. So what happened to his ideas? They are still in his library or wherever. But in Sweden, the government came, endowed him, and now Sweden is building satellites for every developing country. That's the difference. Our vision is something we don't, I won't say we don't have vision, but we need to have a vision that can maximize our growth and development for the future. So thank you very much, everyone. I'm not going to continue giving you lectures about what I believe Africa should or should not do. But I leave you with this. We are talking about space in Africa. Just look at it for the right reasons. If you go to Kenya today, there's the place they call Malindi. It's on the east coast of Kenya in the Indian Ocean. A similar station is in Kiruna, Sweden. All the satellites that go through the polar orbit, the Swedish people can track them in that station. So when you get to that place, it's like a giant antenna farm that is as big as almost, I don't know, 10 football fields, because it's monitoring every satellite that goes out. Same thing you can do in Kenya. You have Malindi station there. The Italians have been launching their rockets, their experimental satellites from there. When Biposac crashed, imagine, I don't know where they launched it from, but that was an equatorial astronomical satellite. And I remember when it crashed on April 29 in the year 2003, I was in Nigeria, and everybody was running around. Oh, the satellite is coming over Nigeria. But we got to read about it in the newspapers. Even those of us who are supposed to be advising the president of Nigeria, we didn't know about it. Why? Because somebody classified it as secret. Something that's supposed to kill populations is being called secret. So, Professor Balogun, you want to say something?
Well, there's so much to say, but those of you who spoke before me have addressed almost all the areas that one could speak to. When I was trying to build something at Ife, people were not interested. And I regretted thinking of the efforts of what Dr. Abiodun has done all over the world. And I always appreciate it. It's been to and fro. It's been encouraging governments, even around the world, to make use of information that we can get from space. Unfortunately, many countries in Africa did not make use of the advice and of the wisdom. I always say that we can acquire knowledge. Anybody can acquire knowledge, but you must have wisdom. Wisdom is needed to make use of this knowledge. Most of the leaders have not acquired the wisdom to make use of this knowledge. And I still want to repeat that we need wisdom to make use of the knowledge we have acquired from space. We can continue to talk, but there must be action. There must be action. And I thank Dr. Abiodun for what he has done. I thank the speaker today for bringing together pieces of information from virtually every part of the world. And I pray and I hope that we can make use of the wisdom that Dr. Abiodun introduced. Without making use of wisdom, knowledge is useless. Because knowledge is just accumulation of facts, accumulation of one or the other, technology, this, but you must make use of it. We require wisdom. That's all I have to say now. Thank you, Dr. Abiodun.
Okay, thank you,
I'm
Dr.
particularly
Dawood.
happy to see you.
Okay, thank you very much. There are no more contributions. I'm going to ask our team to turn us off and so that all of you can take care of your personal businesses. But thank you from the bottom of my heart. My wife joins me and my family joins me in saluting each and every one of you present here today. So God bless you. God bless you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Carol Rose, thank you. Can see you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.